This conference will now be recorded.
All right, as always, everything we'll be talking about today is for educational purposes only, and nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. So overall, this morning actually was really good, to be completely honest, compared to what we saw going on during the pre-market. We were kind of reaching a little bit on most of the things that we had out there on our list. There just wasn't much activity, but we saw a lot. So first thing that I want to talk about is CAR. So it was just absolutely perfect. This is the type of trade. If we look at this trigger right here, not only did we get such a beautiful trigger off that double bottom, but at the same time, even if you took the first trigger, you're talking about a 50-cent move coming into there, but we had absolutely beautiful buying coming in right underneath that 34 level. We knew that this thing needed to pull back from there. And then from that 34 coming into it, it's just there's too much buying to not come back. Now, we're sitting in a consolidation and we're sitting at that 34.50, and we know that we have aspirins, and we have aspirins that happen right before we start our meeting, right at that 124 level. So we do need to pull back, especially because of the amount of times it hit 34 on the S three times now. So within this consolidation, even though it's all buying and the stock does need to come back up, we do need to see a pretty substantial pullback coming back into there. But it's all about that one trade, the first trade of our morning, and what we're looking to do. So when we know that there's that much buying, when we know it needs to pull back, beautiful move towards that downside if you were able to catch that as well. But then coming back towards the upside, I mean, there's just so much more potential. All the prints, the dominant market maker we know was sitting right underneath there, right underneath that 34. So overall, just a beautiful trade, and as of right this second, sitting in consolidation, but I'm telling you, I do expect it to pull underneath that 34 before we get any real type of movement. And at this moment, unfortunately, because of the volume that we see going on out there, I don't have a lot of expectations for this afternoon. But 34.50 ask Prince, we're going to be expecting it to at least get to 35, but first of all, it's going to need to make it a high probability trade. It's going to need to pull back down to that 34 level. Let's talk about VIPS. VIPS was one of the easiest, I don't want to say easy, because there's no such thing as an easy trade. It's just it gave us so many variables that were coming in. So we started to get tanked, and on this tank that was coming from that 650 level, we know that the 6, there's two possibilities. Number one possibility, and we talked about this yesterday in Traders Exchange, but number one possibility is that it hits 6 and we get a whole bunch of bid prints. It means towards the upside. Same type of deal if we don't hit 6 and we still know there's a whole bunch of selling, it's more than likely going to have to pull back up, and that's exactly what we got. And one thing that we want to realize is that we had stacking on the ask side, which means that they were pushing it down and making sure that it stayed back down. And then on top of that, the huge amount of bid prints, that came in at that 6 level told us that it was going to have to come back up. So this print line 640 was a perfect price target. So overall, we are expecting VIPs to come underneath that 6. But as of right this second, it's still showing a little bit of room, based off the buying that we're getting underneath there. Now, is there any trade to take this afternoon? Absolutely not. But based off the variables that we had coming into this is one of those stocks where it's $6. You can trade a ton of shares going into it. So this was one of the easier trades that we had this morning, and the fact that it pulled up all the way to 640, because you have to understand with these cheaper stocks, especially when they're in the quant type trading, they pretty much trade in 5-cent increments. Okay, so 6 to 605 to 610. But when you have something that starts to move like this is why these are one of my favorite setups. Well, my 100% favorite setups that we see out there, because of how cheap, how many shares that you could trade, and the amount of movement that you're going to get, based off of such a cheap stock. So this afternoon, unfortunately, not much going on out there, but overall, it only, like I said, it only takes that one. It's that morning trade that comes in, that first trade of our day, that really gives us the what we're going to be following for the rest of the day. We don't want to get behind. We want to make sure that we start out on the black side, and it's basically shown that. Now we're still getting a whole ton of buying that's coming in underneath this print line right here. So I do expect, based off of what we've seen so far, for us to get a little bit more. You can see the high is 649. So we didn't hit that 650 to give us controlling prints, but there is a lot of buying there before we come back down. Have I seen Zest? Yes, I have. We're going to go over that in a little bit. DPZ, unfortunately, a beautiful move, $11.85. You know, we knew it was going to be higher than its average range. We knew that this thing was going to move, but unfortunately, just not enough volume. When I see the beginning of the market, when the stock pops up, and we're talking about 55,000 shares on a stock like this, it's very, very hard for me to get behind anything or really be able to trade with it. So overall, we knew it was going to make a beautiful move. We knew it needed to come underneath from those bid prints from this morning. But it's just not really anything to be able to get behind. Even if you're trading, I don't care how many shares that you're actually trading within the stock. It's just there's not enough volume there. And these things, especially a stock like this with that big of a range, can really do anything that it wants to. And we don't really want to get involved in that. So we have CBLK. I really did not look at it at all this morning. It pretty much almost sold off immediately upon the market opening. Just very quantity, just not really much going on there for us to really do anything with. We have NCLH, excuse me, which is the same type of deal, just completely sold off and went into consolidation mode. And then KNDI. KNDI was a beautiful trade coming into the morning. It made a beautiful move, but there just wasn't enough there. I mean, the volume that was coming into that 9 level, we do have ask prints that came in on both times at that level. So I'm going to be expecting right around that 10, but at the same time, it's just not an easy trade. And we knew that from this morning, because if we come back from yesterday and we look at the actual chart itself, we can see that it's not a pretty trading stock. So we need, overextended triggers. There's a lot that goes into it, and there's just not really much that came in this morning. If you would have taken it right off the bat, or you could have taken it right off the support level right here at about 865, give or take, coming back in. But it was a quick trade. Overall, we're still going to be expecting this to come over that 9 level, so I am going to put it on our side list for us to keep an eye on, based off of the prints that we have that are sitting there up above, and based off the past 2 days. You can see this volume is just it's an anomaly, complete anomaly. We're better things to trade, and that's the perfect way to put it. Okay, especially when you come into the morning time, there's certain things. There's better things for us to be looking at. There's but especially you're looking at VIPs, but overall not a bad move. So let's talk about ZSAN. So beautiful move right now. Let's talk about the variables. Okay, we do this every single week. We talk about these cheaper stocks. You guys know these are my absolute favorite of anything to look at. What variables do we have right now? Tired of answering things. You guys are going to answer for us for our afternoon meeting what we have. So we have buying at the levels. Absolutely. Buying at the levels, great indication of the stock going up. Buying, very simple. That's the simplest of all of them, but the most important. So absolutely. What else do we notice? When you look at the chart, what do we notice? Holding its valleys. And I like how you said that, because I don't really look at it that way, but look at it. It's holding. On absolutely no volume, the stock is still sitting there and holding on top of its support level. Guys, what happens if a stock is coming up to a resistance point with no volume? What's going to happen? It's not going to break it. Crash doesn't necessarily mean it has to crash, because you have to it's funny, you have to understand something, especially if you trade options. This is a big thing that goes into it. But if you're looking at a stock technically doesn't have to move. A stock could just go sideways. Okay? And there's options plays for a stock that is going to go sideways, and you don't expect it to actually move up or down. So it doesn't necessarily mean crash. What it means is that the stock's not going to break. Okay? And what happens when people see no volume being traded? What's human nature? There we go. They're going to get out. No volume breeds fear. Okay, when the stock is not moving anymore, remember, price action is the biggest thing that retail traders out there look at. So if there's no movement, how does a retail trader feel? As a retail, sad. I like that, but pretty much. And what happens is it breeds fear. It breeds fear in people. When the stock is not moving and people are in it, if you don't really know what you're doing, what's going to happen is it's going to breed fear, and you're going to want to get out of it. All right. So when we see a cheaper stock like this hold this 450 level, even when we go into these dips of absolutely no trading, what does that tell us? Think about the psychology. What does that tell us about the stock? What does that tell us about the traders? Yeah, confidence, Eric. Perfect word. That's the perfect word to sum up exactly what it is. There's confidence there. All right, so that's these. Remember, we keep it very simple. All right, so when somebody sits there, and we know there's confidence sitting in the stock. Okay, if there was a time for this stock to end up crashing back down underneath this 450 support level, it would be because of right here. Okay, we would see these little dips that come into the volume. It would be over. So we have buying, we have holding. Have we seen a major sell-off anywhere? The amount of shares that have been bought as the stock is coming back up, does anyone see those positions being taken out yet? Can we see it anywhere? No. So that tells us a few different things. Number one is that no one got out of their position. So if a market maker doesn't get out of their position, what does that mean? Stock's not going down yet. Market makers sell because they create the market. They're the market makers. Okay, so they already know what's going on there. We have new buying. New buying tells us stock is up. We have a psychological level, which tells us what? Is it going to break past 5 easy? Is any stock ever going to break past 5 easy? Is it going to break past 50 easy? Is it going to break past 100 easy? Is that ever going to happen? For the most part, no. And even if it does, it's going to end up coming back down and playing games there. Okay, if we look at this stock, it's ZSAN right now. Okay, where is the largest point in this stock that you could buy shares at? What number do we think it is? Or sell shares? 5, because we know the most volume that's going to be in it. Okay, so based off of all these variables, what do I think is going to happen? I'm not going to tell you. You guys are going to tell me. What do I think is going to happen at this? Based off the variables that we see out there, to a high percentage, what's going to happen in the stock after it's done playing games? Up, down, sideways. So hit 5 and come back down based off volume, and that's not a bad answer, because if we look at that 5 level, we know that more than likely what's going to happen when this stock goes up to 5. What prints are we going to see? Yeah, we're going to see a whole bunch of ass prints. So it's very possible for it to come back down, but you have to understand something. Eventually, the sellers are going to run out. So this 5 level is going to, you can see how many times it keeps pushing and testing and pushing and testing. Okay, the more times that something tests a level, just think about it just logically. The more times that something hits a level and it comes up to that 5, how many sellers were here the first time? Best way to put it. How many sellers were here the first time? So let's say we have 100% of sellers. Most sellers are going to be here. What's going to happen every single time that we come up to this 5 level and test this 5 level? What's going to happen to the seller percentage? It's going to get lower and lower and lower and lower until it eventually there's nobody there to even fight it anymore and for them to get out. So overall, we have buying, we have everything that we need, all the variables. We're going to be looking for this thing to go over by 5, and that was a phenomenal call by Eric. All right, guys, other than that, everything else is pretty dead out there. We've got a lot of floating around. There's not really any new stocks that I see that besides the ZSAN, but there's not really much else out there that I see that really tells us too much. All right, guys, anything else out there that I missed? Nada. All right, beautiful. All right, so this afternoon, unfortunately, this afternoon and tomorrow, I'm not going to be here. I have some personal stuff going on, need to take care of, but I'm definitely going to be checking in. Just remember, tomorrow morning, I will not be, I pretty much will not be here at all day tomorrow, and then I'll be kind of checking in and out throughout this afternoon. So just want to give you guys the heads up on that. Let's make sure that we work like a team as always. Everything that we see, let's put it out there, and patience. Patience, patience, patience. No reason to force anything. Remember, if you don't have this written down and you have a problem with it, make sure you write this down right now. It only takes one One trade. One trade could make your entire week. It could make your entire, well, we want to go day by day. You want to manage things on a little bit of a shorter time period, but it takes one trade. That's all we need. So make sure that you have those patience, you wait it out, and you take the right triggers. All right, guys. So I will talk to everyone in the chat room here and there for the rest of this afternoon. And other than that, happy trading.